here we all are in the same storm, but in very different boats. And so what I wanted to talk about today is, no matter what boat you find yourself in, I have 6 ways or tools or practices that we can use to help us navigate through this challenging time, no matter what it is that you're feeling. Because I know that a lot of people that I have spoken to, there is a lot coming up, and it varies for each person depending on their experience. So here are my 6 practices that we can employ in any time of challenge or difficulty or something that feels really heavy and hard to get through. So the first of all, is to breathe. Now, you probably heard me talk about this all the time, but it's a beautiful, beautiful practice to just breathe. When you find your mind racing and you're starting to worry, you're starting to feel anxiety, you're starting to get yourself all worked up, if you can catch that moment where your mind is racing, I want you to just really, really breathe. I have a beautiful video that I did a little while ago called the 4-7-8 breath. So that is a technique that you can employ. If you haven't seen that, just scroll back and you will find that video. If you don't want to do that one, just simply take deep breaths, slow down. The actual physical act of taking a deep breath helps to stimulate a part of our nervous system that literally is a signaling mechanism to calm down. Sets off a whole host of hormones and chemical responses within the body that really actually turns on a resting phase within our body. That is going to help to slow down the racing thoughts. Just a beautiful way also to bring you back out of your thinking mind and into the present moment by taking beautiful deep breaths and then being really, really present for those deep breaths. So really be with that breath as we manage our breath ourselves. So it's not that sort of letting the body be breathed, but doing it yourself, and then bringing all of that attention you're giving to your mind's thoughts to your breath. So that's the most powerful, easy thing you can do. What I want to say then from this moment of like having taken those breaths and having given yourself that space, that little bit of space from your thoughts, when you've come to this present moment by first of all turning your attention to your breath, and the breath is the most beautiful thing we can experience in the present moment, and it's always something that can draw us back to the present moment, is the next thing. Number 2 is to find joy. So how can you, in that moment when you finally got yourself out of your head into your body, look around you and find something that brings you joy? So this is not about the big things here, this is about the small things. This is about, what can I see around me right now? What can I experience? What can I give my attention and my awareness to right now that is going to change this state that I feel, that I can connect to in some way that makes me feel good, or gives me just a different response. So an example of that is this morning I sit here in my office and I was getting ready for a call, and my office is actually one of our hotel rooms and the toilet is just there. So this is a bit of an overshare right now, but I had to pee before my call, and I just poured a fresh cup of tea, and I was sitting on the toilet with the door open because it's my office, and I noticed the steam coming out of my hot cup of tea, and I saw that because I had a different perspective. I don't normally sit on the toilet and view things in my room. I'm usually sitting at my computer looking at the screen. So what I noticed was just how beautiful and how much steam was coming out of my cup of tea. And I'm talking about those kinds of things. I'm talking about the little tiny things that we probably overlook most of the time. How can you spot some more of those little things in your life that just can put a tiny little smile on your face or a little smirk from the inside out? So for me this morning was the way the steam was rising off my tea and just how it looked. It was really cool, it was really beautiful. Often for me it's about looking out the window and looking at nature, slowing down enough to even notice just a bird flying past, or how the trees are moving, things like that, but being fully present for the experience of those little things. So the third thing I want to talk about is, in a time of challenge or a time of great change or even a time of uncertainty, what we really want to let go of is expectation. So what I'm talking about here is how we expected things to be. So right now, great example of that is all the plans we had, right? All the plans we had to travel, all the plans we maybe had to go and visit family, jobs we were going to take, opportunities that are no longer there. So if we are sitting and ruminating on these lost opportunities, or being disappointed now because all of a sudden the things we wanted or we're expecting to happen aren't going to happen, it's when we hold on to those expectations of how things should be or how we want them to be that causes us suffering. And ultimately it is our own self causing ourselves that, because we're not willing to let go of this expectation we have. Expectation can bring us a lot of difficult emotion, stress, anxiety, and really makes us feel like things are turning to shit or things are worse than they are. So a really powerful thing to do in a time like this, or a time of challenge or a time of crisis, is to let go of expectation. This is unprecedented times for us right now, but how do you know that what's coming may not be something better? Just because you haven't thought of that yet. Maybe, this time is going to shift something in you, allow you to see things in a different way, which might ultimately lead you somewhere else. So just letting go of expectation takes a load off of ourselves and gives us one less thing to worry about. And what I want that to lead into then is the number 4, which is this beautiful word I learnt through yoga, which is equanimity. So equanimity is all about finding that middle ground between the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. So in a situation like this, when perhaps the future is really unknown and it's scary for you and you don't know what's going to come and how things are going to change and when they're going to get back to normal, that can bring up a lot of fear. So a great exercise to do is to go through the best case scenario and write that out. What would that look like? What would you do when this happens? How's that going to lead your life to wherever? And then do the exact same exercise for the worst case scenario. So say that, whatever your worst case scenario is that, we're stuck inside for another 6 months, and then when you get out, that job's not there. There'll be no this, that, and the other. Play that out. But what will you do when that happens? And really work through and keep asking yourself, okay, if that worst case happens, what would I do? And then what would I do? And then what would I do? And what a beautiful exercise this is that it really helps us to see that no matter what, even if the worst case comes along, there's always something we can do. There's always power we have. Yes, it doesn't look like best case scenario, but we want to let go of that expectation and find a way to be okay with either of those scenarios playing out. And it's a really powerful exercise to do, because you see when you do go down that worst case scenario that you always have a sense of power. There's always something you can do, someone you can reach out to. It really works with your creativity. So I would say play with that. And then what you do once you've done that is you come back to the middle and be like, okay, well, now I've explored both options. I can find this place to be like, well, now I can see that no matter what happens, the best case or the worst case, I'll be okay in either of those situations. And then the 5th thing is to trust. Now, this isn't the easiest thing to do. This also goes hand in hand with something that I like to call having faith as well. This is something that we have to build and develop, and it's an active process of doing. So I want to turn to a book about the yamas and niyamas. This is a yoga philosophy, a way of living, to talk about trust. And this little passage says, what if we could trust life like we trust the breath? What if we could take in all the nourishment of the moment and then let it go, fully trusting that more nourishment will come? So this is the idea of trust, is really truly opening yourself up to believing in the fact that no matter what is happening right now, or in this challenging time that you're experiencing at any other time in your life, that everything is going to be okay. That there will be more of what you desire coming at some other time. This ties in with the 6th thing, so I'm going to talk about the 2 of them at the same time. And the 6th thing is the idea of impermanence and our attachment to things. So with this idea of the breath, right? Our inhale comes and then it disappears as our exhale, right? Comes, comes in, we inhale, and then it turns into an exhale. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. We never for a second stop and start worrying about, am I going to take another breath? It's probably the one thing in life we should worry about because it's the thing that gives us our lives, but we don't worry about that. We trust in something bigger than ourselves, our bodies, its innate wisdom, for it to just keep breathing. But instead, we worry about things like our jobs, money, friends, losing those things, right? Now, fair play, losing those things makes things hard. But here's the thing. Sometimes they come and sometimes they go. We lose jobs and then we get a job. Sometimes we have money and then sometimes we don't. But then sometimes we come back into money. So knowing in your life that there's always going to be this almost like rhythm of life, flow of life, coming and going of things. And we let go of that and we trust and see that there is such a play of impermanence in our life all the time. It's that idea of change, the fact that we're even in this pandemic right now, and the impermanence of what was a life we lived for a very long time. I know that for me, I believe that as we get out of this, things are going to be different. And that past way of doing things is no longer going to be like that, hopefully, in many, many positive ways. So this idea of impermanence and allowing things to just come and go, knowing that the worry and holding on again, like the expectation, but this time we're talking about attachment to, I want things to be this way, really just creates a block for us. And it is a way that we cause our own suffering because we're not fluid enough to just move with how things are happening, the pace of life, the rhythm of life, the nature of things. So when we can let go of struggling, I just wrote some notes and I want to make sure I said this, of struggling to hold on to things or for things to be a certain way, we can start to let life be what it is. And the beauty of allowing life to be what it is in a time like this to just be what it is that we can come back to steps 1 and 2 and we can just breathe. Bring ourselves to the present, to be present for what is. And then in this new sort of state of seeing our lives for what they are, again, we repeat step 2 by saying, okay, well now how do I find the joy in this situation? Now, when I'm talking about that, you might find yourself in, you don't have a home, you don't have a job, your credit card's racked up. But maybe you're staying with friends for the next couple of weeks. Okay, that's not the best case situation. That's your worst case has come true. But come back to your breath, breathe, all right. How do I find joy in this moment? How do I let go of my expectation here? How can I just be with what is right now and not pile on the suffering and the worry and the anxiety by just really embracing, okay, here I am. How do I manage this situation? And how do I move to a different place from here? Always coming back to almost like this, finding a way to find that peace and equanimity between everything we want and how things are, and just going, okay, well, I'm okay with whatever happens because I know I'm a resourceful, capable human being. We all are. We have loved ones, we have friends, we have people who will support us. Maybe it just means that we have to reach out. Maybe we have to ask for the things we need. Times like this help us to grow. Times like this help us to change. Times like this help us step into the person we know we are and who we are becoming. So no matter what boat you're in, these are 6 ideas that I have for how you can navigate this challenge, the feelings that you're feeling, to find some peace, and to be able to really truly find joy in whatever situation you're in. And this isn't to say to put the rose-colored glasses on and say, I'm fine. It's just to say that, okay, well, how do I just be with this situation in a way that's not just me worrying, stressing, having anxiety, and just be like, okay, well, what's here? And what can I find in this new situation that also still brings me joy? Because the sun still shines, your tea still tastes amazing, people still love you. So I'm hoping that this talk was helpful if you did find it useful. I'd love thumbs up or a comment. If you know someone who is really struggling right now that needs a little bit of light or guidance, I'd love to share this video with them. I hope that we are all out of this very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.